Today I'm talking about raglan sleeve fitting and a forward neck adjustment. I was going through my comments and somebody had asked me how do you adjust a raglan sleeve pattern for a forward neck, and I thought it would be a good idea just to do a tutorial for it because I started typing out an answer trying to explain it, and I think a visual would be better. So in front of me I have cut out the smallest size in my raglan sleeve pattern so I can demonstrate this in a more real size versus the minis. I can show you, I did the adjustment on my minis, so you can see here, this is what the adjustment looks like when it's finished. We have the front, the back, and the sleeve like this. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to do this in a fuller size because this was really tiny and I was having a hard time even seeing what I was doing. So let me put that aside. So this adjustment is similar to what you would do for a traditional front and back bodice that has a set-in sleeve. It just looks a little different because on a raglan, the top of the sleeve contributes to the side of the neckline. All right, so let me just show you. So we've got our front, we've got our back, and we've got our sleeve. I'm going to put the sleeve aside for now, and we're just going to deal with the front and the back. What happens when you have a forward neck is your neck is sitting more forward, so everything in the front needs to be shorter, and then everything in the back needs to be a little bit longer so it can come up and reach up to where your neck is a little bit more forward than a neck that's sort of centered on your shoulder. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw myself some guidelines on this pattern, and I'm going to basically draw a line that's horizontal below the front neckline, and I'm going to go about 2 inches below the neckline here, like this. And then I'm also going to draw myself a line from the very edge of the neckline down like this. Okay, so those are my 2 guidelines. I'm going to pivot here, and I'm going to break here, and I'm going to break here, meaning the only pivot I have right now is here, and I'm going to show you what happens up here in a minute. So let's say we want to shorten or bring up the neckline closer to the neck. Let's say we want to do a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and make a 1/2 inch guideline here because we're going to want to get rid of a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and draw myself a 1/2 inch guideline like this. Okay, that's my guideline for where we need to go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut to here, and I'm going to then pivot right there. So I've got a pivot, and then I'm going to cut here, and I'll just leave it as a pivot for now. So basically it looks like this. So now the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this down, and you can see I'm going to have to break the pivot here because see how this piece does not lay flat? Okay, so let's break that. Okay, and what's happening is I'm lowering this section to the 1/2 inch, and I'm just going to put a piece of tape to hold it. So again, I'm just lining that right up, sliding it down the 1/2 inch like this. Okay, now what happens here is we've gotten rid of a 1/2 inch here, right? So notice what's happening. Now this is standing up a 1/2 inch higher, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to use this pivot to make this kind of match. I'm going to pivot it down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pivot it underneath like this. And it would make sense that we would have to get rid of a little bit of that length. So see how I'm crisscrossing it like this? So this little point is sticking out right here. See that? So what that's doing is it's shortening this area which is then going to contribute to the neckline. And if I just show you here, I can put this right here. See how the neck keeps going, right? So now we've shortened all of this coming into the armhole. We're also going to have to shorten this armhole because we're going to be cutting off about a 1/2 inch from the front armhole. Now on a raglan sleeve, the armhole is more of a, a straight line that's a little bit curved versus a traditional armhole. But basically, I'm just going to go ahead and overlap that until the tip of my neckline is even with the edge of this armhole, and I'm going to tape that. All right, and then I'm just going to cut that off. So I'm just cutting off that little piece. Okay, and that gets rid of the length. So now I've petiteed or shortened the front. Now in the back, we have to do the opposite thing. So in the back, what we're doing is we're actually lengthening. And to lengthen the back, I'm going to draw a guideline. And actually, I can use my lengthen, shorten armhole here line that I have printed on my pattern. So I'm going to use that. But also, I'm going to draw a little vertical line from the edge of the neckline down to that line. And this time we're going to spread. And my pivot is going to be here. Okay, so there's my pivot in the armhole this time. Because what we want to do is we want to raise, we want to raise this up like this, the 1/2 inch. But we also want to create a straight center back edge so we can cut it on the fold. So I'm going to create another thing here so I can pivot this little section right here like this. All right, so that's what that looks like. Now I do need some paper here, so I'm going to go ahead and tape some paper. Okay, and I'm going to mark my 1/2 inch that I'm adding in the back to get the back neckline to come up higher. I can also continue my center back seam so I can easily reattach this like that. So then this is going to come up here like this. And again, I'm working with the center piece first because that has to stay like this. All right, now this piece is going to break apart, and notice what happens here. I'm going to pivot this. Oh, actually, you know what? I could pivot it a little bit like this, or I think I can just leave it. Actually, I think I'm just going to leave it. On the mini, what I did was I kept it touched at the armhole and I added right here at the top. But now that I'm looking at it in a bigger full size pattern, if I just leave it like this, actually, I think that could work. Or let me tip it a little bit. I want to tip it a little bit just to make the truing up easier. So I'm breaking, I'm going to add almost like 1/4 and 1/4, kind of like this. Something like this. I think I like that better. I'm going to do it like that. So it's got a slight bend, and then you can see I'm adding right here a little bit. So I'm adding all of this. I'm going to color it in, and then I'll tape it. So I'm adding that length there. And then I'm also adding right here. Right, so I'm adding there, and I'm also adding all of this. Right? So you can see we're raising up the we're raising up the back neckline. Now I'm just going to true this up by just skinning it out. I'm just going to cut this off like this. You can see I don't need this little paper right there. All right, so now I've got a back that's raised and I've got a front that's shortened. So the next step is we have to adjust the sleeve. So let's start with the front, okay? And if you're looking at a raglan pattern, that's a one-piece sleeve. The side that's the front is shorter, and then the back reaches around to the back neckline a little bit higher. So I'm going to work with this shorter side first. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right here, and I'm just going to walk the sleeve into the armhole like this. And then I'm going to mark where it should end, which is right here. Okay, so that's how much I need to shorten the front so it agrees with the length of the front armhole. Then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to the back. Now in the back, we're going to find out how much we have to add, because remember, the back gets longer. So here, I'm going to go ahead and just walk it. And you can see I have to add, and I'm just going to make take a little measurement here. It's almost a 1/2 inch. I mean, it's like a 1/16 of an inch shorter than a 1/2 inch. So it's practically a 1/2 inch in the back. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make I'm going to use my length and shorten sleeve cap right here, this line. And I'm going to create a pivot in the middle of the sleeve right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower this much, which is about 3/8 of an inch in the front. I'm going to lower it that much to that line in the front, and in the back we're going to spread. So basically I'm going to put a piece of tape here where I'm going to create my pivot. That'll make it stronger. I'm going to go ahead and cut here to there, and then I'm going to skip over and I'm going to cut here. Now if your pivot breaks, don't worry. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop it like this, and you're going to see I'm going to end up with approximately, the amount I need on both sides. So I'm going to go ahead and tape this one. Okay. And this pops open. So then I can put a little paper there. I'll just stick a little paper right in here. Okay, so again, just put a little piece of tape. All right, so we are adding right here, all of this, we're adding to the back so we can reach up and get the higher, the longer distance to get to a forward neck. And here, we're overlapping to make the front shorter. And then I'm just going to true this up by doing that. All right, so that's my adjusted sleeve. So you can see we've got the adjusted sleeve. We added the length to the back sleeve, like that. And then we added, or took away, if I turn it this way, or just I'll put it right here to show you, we shortened the amount we shortened there. So now we've got a adjusted raglan sleeve top for a forward neck. So anytime I get to, noodle around with pattern pieces, I'm a happy girl. So this was a fun one to work on. If you have any questions or comments, please post those below and I will help you. If you're enjoying my content, consider liking and subscribing to my channel because it helps me grow. And I just want to take a minute and thank everybody for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.